What's up everybody, welcome back. So a little bit in between video today, I'm going to show you how you can set up the default Steam Online Subsystem. So it's not really a part of the multiplayer project, but I realize a lot of people probably want to test something over the internet with a friend or something to see if it's actually working. So later in this series, we're going to actually take a little bit deeper look into a subsystem and try to set up a little bit more functionality. And today I just want to show up how to set up the default Steam subsystem, so no third-party plugins or stuff like that. So you can test it on Steam, and the only functionality we have with that in Blueprints is basically create a session and join a session. So we can't really do any exciting stuff except just test over the internet. So that's today's video, and part of setting up the subsystem since I think about Unreal Engine 4.27, you have to recompile one C++ file. So I'm going to show you how you can do that, and to do that you need to have Visual Studio installed and make sure everything is working. So first I'm going to create a default Blueprint project, and we're going to set up Visual Studio and make sure that actually compiles and everything is working. And then we're going to move on to setting up the Steam subsystem. So if you already have Visual Studio installed, you can skip this first part of the video. And if you do not have it set up, then I'm going to show you how you can do that. So let's dive into that. So first of all, Visual Studio, I'm going to show you the setup I have installed and that I have confirmed to be working. So I have Visual Studio 2022 and currently I'm running 17.4.2. There is a new update, so that probably works as well. I'm going to show you the stuff that I have installed, and to be honest, I can't really tell you what's default and what's not. So I'm just going to run through it and then you can see if you have the same things checked or not. So first of all, you want to make sure you have .NET desktop development over here checked, desktop development with C++, and universal Windows platform development, then game development with C++, and the last one I have checked over here, Linux and embedded development with C++. So then for the .NET, I have this stuff selected. So I think this is all default, to be honest. So you can try and make sure that's correct. Then for desktop development, I have this stuff set up. Obviously, I have the Windows 11 SDK. So if you're running Windows 10, you need to pick one of these. I'll just probably pick the highest one available. So then we're going to the universal Windows platform development. Again, the SDK, but I think this is all pretty much default. Then we have game development with C++, and this is a pretty important one, and this is not default, so you want to enable the Unreal Engine installer over here. And then we also have the Linux part, so again, I think this is default, and then I have a few individual components, and if you can't find those, Visual Studio will probably prompt you to install those once we're actually running it, so that's not really a big deal. You have to keep in mind this is going to take up quite some disk space and probably a bit of your time, so be prepared. So that's my Visual Studio install, and once you have that set up, let's create a default Blueprint project, and we're going to add C++ to that to make sure that everything is actually working and compiling. And once we have that confirmed, we're going to add the actual Steam setup to our actual project. So I'm running the Unreal editor on my other monitor right now. There we go. So I'm just going to create a third-person Blueprint project, and the naming doesn't really matter, so let's just create it. There we go, we have the project up. So we're going to add a C++ file, so we're going to go to Tools and then add a new C++ class. So you could add an empty class, but an empty class without any code doesn't show up in the actual editor. So I'll recommend to try a character, for example, and that will actually show up in the, how's this called again? The content browser. So we'll have some extra confirmation that it's actually working. So I'm going to select a character over here, and I'm not going to rename it. You do not really have to select public or private. That doesn't really matter in this case. So we're going to just create the class. And now it's going to add the code to the project. Shouldn't take too long. So this is actually working. And now it's telling us we have to recompile the code for it to actually show up. So do we want to edit that? Let's click yes, and it should open Visual Studio. So it's doing that on my other monitor. Bear with me for a second. There we go. So this is the project, and really all we need to do in here is make sure that we rebuild it. And to do that, we need to close Unreal Engine, otherwise it's not going to build because they are linked together. So let's just close Unreal Engine Editor for now. And now you'll probably get some stuff down here with failed or errors and things like that. That doesn't really matter. You can pretty much ignore that. And over here for the error list, the same thing. Unreal Engine C++ works a little bit different than normal C++. So Visual Studio doesn't always immediately understand what's happening. So usually you can just ignore that stuff. We're simply going to go to build, and we're going to rebuild the solution, and that could take a while. So I'm going to pause it in a little bit, but you can show down here in the output log that stuff is actually happening. So just be patient and wait for this to complete, and I'll be back in a minute or two. Okay, it's done, and over here at the bottom you should see 1 succeeded, 0 failed, and maybe 1 skipped, but that doesn't really matter. And again, in the error list, you can ignore this, so 15 errors, that's fine. As long as the rebuild is succeeded, then that should be good to go. So now we can close our Visual Studio again, and we're going to open up Unreal Engine. So we're going to open up the new project. And just to confirm, we actually have a C++ class in the editor right now, and the project is working. So over here, if we go to my project, we have a C++ folder, and we have a my character class over here. So that's good. And you can also see it over here. So here's the recompile button for your C++ code that's not in a Blueprint project. So if this button shows up, you should be good as well. So we have this confirmed to be working, and we're going to actually move on to our multiplayer project to set up our subsystem. So let's set up the subsystem in our actual multiplayer project. So I'm going to use this project over here. And this is the project that's currently on my YouTube page as a tutorial. So I actually want to make a duplicate of this project to make sure that I have a backup that I can continue to use working on the project. So I'm going to duplicate the project first, and if it's a Blueprint project, that's actually pretty simple. So if you already added C++ to your project, renaming a project is a little bit harder, and you might just want to make a separate backup so you can go back to that one. So let's go to the Explorer and go to this project folder. So we have the Unreal Engine projects over here. I'm simply going to duplicate this one. And that shouldn't take too long, I hope. There we go. So now we need to rename it. So I'm going to name it Shooter Steam, for example. And then I'm going to copy this name. So we have to rename the actual folder first, or not first, but we have to rename the actual folder. Then we also have to rename the U project file. So make sure that's the same name as the folder. So again, add Steam over here. And then we also want to make sure that we go to the config folder and open our DeafultEngine.ini. And over here, we actually want to make sure that we have one line in there. So bear with me for a second. It's on my other monitor again. There we go. So this is the DeafultEngine.ini, and we need to make sure that we have a line in here that actually says the project name. So I do not have it in here right now, so we can add it. It says URL, game name, and then the name of your game. So this should actually match the folder name and the name of the U project file. And if you did those three things, then your project is renamed. So then we can go to our launcher, and it's not here because we need to reopen it, but we can also just go back to our project folder and just open the U project file, and that should make it appear over here as well. So again, it's on my other monitor, but it's actually launching, and here we have our project. So first we're going to add the C++ to this, and I also have a list of the actual requirements and the code that you need to add in my Discord. So this over here, and I'm also going to link it in the video, so you can just copy and paste all of the code and you don't have to worry about typing errors. So first of all, we have a few requirements that we need to meet for this to actually work, and those are listed over here as well. So we need to have our C++ installed. We're going to get to that. Then if we're using the developer app Steam ID, which we're going to do because we do not have an actual Steam ID for our project, we need to make sure that the project is packaged as a developer build. So it can't be a really full build. It needs to be set to a developer build. Then if we're using the developer app, we also have our region lock in place. So if you want to test it with somebody over Steam, you need to be in the same download region. So you can just change it to make sure that it's actually set. So if you go to Steam and then settings, you have the downloads over here, and over here you can set your download region. So the persons you're testing with need to have the same download region as you have, otherwise it will not work with the developer app. And then last but not least, you need to have 2 different PCs and 2 different Steam accounts. So you can't test it on one PC and just open up 2 of your games or something like that. You need to have actual 2 different PCs and 2 Steam accounts. So with those requirements, we can make this actually work. And over here, we also have the code and stuff listed that we need to add. So let's start doing that. Let's go to tools and add our C++ class. So again, I'm just going to add a character. You could add an empty class if you want to. This is fine. Let's create the class. So it added the C++ code and it actually opened Visual Studio. If it didn't do that, then just go to the project folder and double click the SLN file that's created for you. So if you go to your project over here, then in the same folder with the U project file, there's an SLN file now. So you can double click that to open Visual Studio. And then once we're in here, we're going to add our DeafultEngine.ini first. So let's go over here to your project folder and then to the config folder and click your DeafultEngine.ini. So what you want to add in here, like I mentioned, it's listed in my Discord, so you can just copy and paste it. So I'm copying it right now. And we just want to make sure that we paste it somewhere in between here. So it shouldn't really matter where that is. So this part is the stuff you actually want to add. So this part over here, but again, I recommend copying and pasting it from the Discord. So that's all we need to add in our DeafultEngine.ini. And then we're going to add something to our target.cs file. So if we go to source over here, and then look down in the list, you have your project name .target.cs. So we want to click this file. And in here, we actually want to add a boolean that we're using Steam. So this is also on my Discord. And over here, you just want to add it in between here somewhere. Again, it shouldn't really matter. So just this line, B uses Steam is true. That goes in your target.cs file. And then we're going to go into our build.cs file. So that's a little bit up the list over here. And in there, we also want to add one line. So I'm going to copy it from my Discord again. And I'm going to paste it over here. So private dependencies, module names, and I have 3 modules listed in there. You probably only need the Online Subsytem Steam, but this is confirmed and working. So just add this line and you're good to go. So with that stuff in place, we need to set up the actual plugin. And for that, first we're going to close Visual Studio and we're going to make sure that we have everything saved. So let's cancel it and save everything first, and then let's close it. So first we're going to copy the actual plugin to our project folder. So we need to go to the folder where we have our Unreal Engine install for the current version that you're using for that project. So I'm using 5.0 in the Steam project. So I'm going to open that folder. Then we're going to go to Engine, and then we're going to go to Plugins, and then we're going to go to Online. So in there we have a folder called Online Subsystem Steam, and we're going to copy this folder. So let's copy it. And then we need to go to our actual project folder, so Unreal Projects, and then we have our Shooter Steam folder. So in here, first we need to create a new folder called Plugins. And inside of that folder, we need to create the Online folder. So Online. And in that folder, we're going to paste the actual plugin. So paste it over here, Online Subsystem Steam. Now we need to go back to the root folder of the project, and we're going to right click the U project file, and in Windows 11 we need to go to show more options, and then we can generate Visual Studio project files. Click that button and then it will update your Visual Studio project, so wait for this to finish. And then we can double click the SLN file to actually open the project again, and now the plugin should appear inside Visual Studio as well. So if we go to the right side, now we have our plugins folder over here, and we can expand it and go to our Steam plugin. So now we want to go to our source folder, and in here we're going to go to private. In here we're going to look for the online session interface Steam.cpp. So let's see. Online session interface Steam.cpp, so it's somewhere in the middle over here. You just want to click this file, and then we're going to scroll down to about line 238. So if you didn't actually change anything in here, it should be line 238, session settings, build unique ID. So look for this line, and below that line we're going to paste in our new line. So I'm going to copy that from my Discord again and paste it right below here. So this is the only line we need to add. Session settings, use lobbies if available is true. So make sure we paste it in here. We're gonna save it. And now we have everything changed in here. So we need to rebuild our solution again. So make sure you do not have your Unreal Engine editor open in the background like I do. So I'm gonna close this. And then we can go to build and just rebuild the solution. Again, this is going to take 1 or 2 minutes, so I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back in a second. Okay, that's good to go. So again, down here, you should have 1 succeeded, 0 failed, and maybe 1 skipped. That's good. Do not worry about any errors in the error list. We can just ignore that. So if this is good to go, we can close our Visual Studio again. And now we need to open our project, so we can actually do it right here. Let's just double click the U project file. And it's opening up on my other monitor again. Almost there, there we go. So if we have everything set up correctly, we can now go to Edit Plugins. And we should see our plugin at the top here under the project, and then we have the online platform, our subsystem Steam. So we want to enable this one and do not enable the one that's actually down here in the online platform, because that's the default one in the engine. This is the one we edited. So make sure we enable this one. So we must restart the Unreal editor. So let's make sure that we do that. And that's good to go and restart it. So we should have our plugin working now. There's one thing: if you are actually using the multiplayer project from my tutorial, you want to open up the widget for the server row, and in here we need to disable one node to make sure we actually have our server name pop up. So we're going to open our widget blueprint server row and then go to the graph. And then this is the actual event graph. So we have update server row info, and in here we're going to connect the server name directly to the toText node, and we're going to get rid of the split string. So this way we'll be 100% sure we have a name popping up inside of our project. So we are good to go, and we should now be able to package and test this. So let's go to platform, and if you have Visual Studio installed correctly, you should be able to build it right now. So make sure you're using the development setting, otherwise this will not work. And we're going to package the project. So again, this can take a little while, so I'm just going to pause it in a minute. So let's create a directory for this, GDR shooter Steam, and let's package it. So you're probably going to have a pretty significant list of warnings about some animation blueprints and probably sounds and a few other things, but those should only be warnings, and that should not really be an issue to actually test this. So we're going to ignore that for now, and as long as this succeeds, we are good to go. So let this run for a little bit, depending on if you did it before or not. This can take a while. So I'm going to pause the video, and once it's good to go, I'll be back. So we're done over here, and this should be good to go. So we have a build successful over here. So we can close our Unreal Engine stuff, and we should have a folder with our actual build. So that has the platform name, and then we have our game in here. So as mentioned before, you need to have two different PCs with two different Steam accounts. So I actually have a second PC set up, and I created a second Steam account. So I'm going to make sure this is on my other PC as well, and I'm going to launch everything, and then I'll be back to show and test if this is working. So I have the project running on my other PC, so let's launch it over here as well. Oh, it's probably on my other monitor right now. So let me see. There we go. There we go. So as you can see on the right bottom, it's actually activating Steam. So that seems to be working. So let's create a profile in here. Accept it, and then we're going to host a session. So multiplayer, we do need to make sure that we actually set it to online. So this button actually works right now if we have the subsystem installed. So make sure set it to online. We're going to host a game. And then on my other PC, let me see if I can join this. So again, make sure if you're joining, set the connection to online and then search game. And then that should work. So I'm actually joining right now. There we go. So I'm going to set this to a free-for-all match. And again, there's one thing you need to do. You need to enable seamless travel, otherwise it's not going to load into the map. So if you enable seamless travel, it should pretty much always work. To be honest, I had it fail one time on me where it was loading in the map, but it wasn't replicating anything. But that actually only happened one time, and I tested quite a few times. So I've readied up on my second PC, seamless travel enabled, start the game. And there we go. We are actually connected over Steam, and we are shooting at each other. And it's working. Sweet. So that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope everything is working for you as well. If you run into problems, just join the Discord, and maybe there's something in there experiencing the same issues and you can help each other, or maybe I can help you guys out. Who knows? So if you like the video, please consider leaving a like, and if you want to have a look at this project and know how to make this game, then you can take a look at my channel, and we're actually creating a full multiplayer game with a free-for-all, team deathmatch, a survival game mode, and a lot of other stuff. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check out the channel. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye bye.